Today we are going to talk about SMSL A200. It's a small integrated amplifier that will power and drive your speakers. It comes at $270 and from SMSL, brand that makes really good budget hi-fi. So let's talk about some basics. This is a small Class D amp. It has Infineon modules inside that we have been seeing around for quite some time. They're both digital and analog inputs on the back. So we have coaxial, optical, USB, wireless, and also HDMI ARC. And then one set of RCA single-ended analog inputs. Binding posts for your speakers, and that's it. In the front you can see these VU meters, and there's a small display that follows the shape of these VU meters, and this traditional SMSL plastic remote control. On paper, A200 offers 70 watts of power, which sounds more than reasonable, but let's see how it sounds. When I connected SMSL A200, I started listening to a few songs and I thought it sounds quite decent. Tonally speaking, it's nothing particularly biased towards highest or lowest frequencies. Detail retrieval is just very reasonable. It doesn't have some sort of super dynamic sound, but it's not completely lifeless either, and I played through several songs without a significant complaint. But at one moment this one came up, and this one is recorded in that way that it has quite low volume level and big dynamic range. And I started turning up the volume on this amplifier just to realize that I was hitting 99, which is the maximum, and my 85 dB speakers, which is quite normal for stand mounters, like CAF-LS50 for example has 85 dB I think, and I couldn't get that song to be loud enough. Now don't get me wrong, loudness was enough for like normal listening, but it was not really that loud. And at that moment, amplifier also struggled a bit. I noticed that there is a bit of strain, mid-range sounded a bit grainy. And when I finally paused the song, I noticed that there is even a background hiss. It's low, but it's there. So this is not a silent amplifier. It has quite a bit of noise floor even when it's not playing anything. And I quickly moved to comparing it to some other amps of similar price, and I started with SMSL AO200 MK2. Now this one I already reviewed and I liked it, I recommended it many times. It's basically a slight evolution of SMSL A300, which is also a great amp, but slightly more affordable and without balanced inputs that this one has. And I immediately noticed, first of all, when I power this amp on, that it's dead silent. There is no that noise floor. Second of all, gain is noticeably higher, and I can pump up the volume quite noticeably more, to the point when I feel I really don't want more loudness and I still haven't maxed this amp. Next thing that I noticed is that dynamics is better, the sound is punchier, the soundstage is wider, tones are cleaner, and this amp from SMSL simply sounds livelier, better, more powerful, more engaging. Going back to A200, I realized that the soundstage collapses, dynamics collapses, and there is a bit of grain in its sound, and that noise floor is just there and present. And given that these two amps cost exactly the same, I don't know what's happening with A200. It definitely cannot match the performance of AO200 MK2. That means that it cannot match the performance of A300, which is very, very similar to this one. And it has been on the market for 2 years already, and nowadays it's more affordable. Yeah, features and inputs are not completely the same, but nonetheless the performance difference is quite noticeable. Then I moved to Fosi Audio ZA3, and that one sounds cleaner, it has better tone timbre, and once again darker background because of non-existent noise floor. Basically you cannot hear that. It has higher power reserves, more gain. It can push more volume, more loudness than this SMSL A200 can. And once again, they do have different set of features, where ZA3 doesn't have a remote, it doesn't have any digital inputs. It's basically somewhere in between of power amp and integrated amp, but given that for the price of one A200 you can actually buy ZA3 or SMSL A300 and then a great small DAC like SMSL SU1 and combine these into a much better sounding combo than what A200 can do. Performance of A200 in this direct comparison was once again quite underwhelming. And at one point I even considered that there is something wrong with my unit. That can happen. And I quickly googled to see other people's impressions, and just quick read, quick glance, I remember seeing Randy from Cheap Audio Man basically saying like, yeah, this amp is mid. I realized, yeah, we cannot all have like bad control quality units. This is an underwhelming amplifier. And while its sound is not particularly bad in any way, this level of performance at this price would be okay maybe 3 years ago. But 2 years ago SMSL A300 came out, then AO200 MK2, then all of these small Fosi audio amplifiers. And if you want a good amplifier from SMSL, I suggest go buy A300. Because with this one something went wrong somewhere. It's a product that I could use for a very non-critical listening, like connecting a TV to it, or listening to radio stations while I work on something else in my house and I'm not sitting in front of my speakers. Also, that really low power and low gain makes it not suitable for room listening with anything that is not really highly sensitive speaker. Maybe like near field listening desktop environment where you don't want your volumes to get really high. But even in that situation, I don't see why you simply wouldn't go for a 300 or ZA3 and a good small external DAC. And I suppose all that I can say is to SMSL, fire the guy who made this. Just kidding. Just find a better engineer that I know you have and let him gently instruct him and teach him how to make a better sounding product. Because I know you know how to do that, because A200, MK2, A300, and all of your DACs basically that I've reviewed in the last couple of years. So yeah, something somewhere somehow went south with this product and it's difficult to recommend it. Now, Apos Audio from the US sent me this one in for a review. I'm sorry guys, but I cannot recommend this one. Instead, I'll say if you want to support that online shop, just go and buy any other SMSL product like mentioned AO200 MK2 or A300. I know that's selling on Apos too. It's more affordable even, and it's much better sounding. So that would be all for today. Thank you for watching. See you next time.